From the ashes of Earth, Commander Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Mars Colony Outpost Alpha, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing what remained of Earth. The blue planet that had once been humanity's cradle now bore angry red scars across its surface, entire continents blackened and oceans boiling away into space. It had been 3 months since the Vorax arrived, their massive ships darkening skies across the globe before unleashing weapons that defied human understanding. "Commander, the Council is waiting," Lieutenant Chen said softly from behind her. Elena nodded, unable to tear her gaze from the dying planet. 7 billion people, Chen. 7 billion, and we couldn't save them. We saved who we could. And now we need to decide what comes next. The emergency bunker beneath Olympus Mons housed what remained of humanity's leadership, military commanders, scientists, and the few politicians who had made it off Earth before the invasion. Elena entered the chamber to find 20 haggard faces looking up at her expectantly. "Give us the numbers, Commander," said Admiral Weston, the highest-ranking military officer left alive. Elena activated the holographic display at the center of the room. "We have approximately 780,000 survivors across all Mars colonies and lunar outposts. Military personnel number just under 15,000. We have 7 functional spacecraft with interplanetary capabilities, none with weapons systems designed for ship-to-ship combat." "And the Vorax?" asked Dr. Kamala Sharma, head of xenobiology. "Their main fleet departed Earth orbit yesterday. We believe they're returning to wherever they came from, leaving behind automated harvesters to strip mine what's left." Elena paused. Based on intercepts from their communications, Earth was just one of many worlds targeted in this sector. The room fell silent. "So that's it then," said former UN Secretary Zhang. "We hide here and hope they don't bother coming for Mars." Elena's jaw tightened. "No, we fight back." Admiral Weston laughed bitterly. "With what, Commander? You just told us we have no weapons that can touch their ships." "Not yet," Elena said, nodding to Dr. Sharma. "But that might be about to change." Dr. Sharma stood, her dark eyes gleaming with something Elena hadn't seen in months. Hope. 3 days ago, a mining team in the northern quadrant of Acidalia Planitia discovered something unexpected. She tapped her tablet, and the hologram shifted to show what appeared to be an artificial chamber deep underground. This structure predates human presence on Mars by approximately 50,000 years. Murmurs filled the room as Sharma continued. "Inside, we found technology unlike anything we've ever seen, and a data archive. We're still deciphering most of it, but we know this. The builders were at war with a species whose description matches the Vorax, and they had weapons that could hurt them. The facility beneath Acidalia Planitia became humanity's last, best hope. Over the next 8 months, the best scientific minds left alive worked feverishly to understand the alien technology. Elena practically lived in the facility, watching as theories became prototypes, and prototypes evolved into systems beyond human imagination. It's incredible," Dr. Linden, the lead physicist, explained as they walked through the cavernous underground hangar where their project was taking shape. "The civilization that built this, they called themselves the Anteri. They approached physics from a completely different direction than humans. They didn't just discover quantum mechanics, they found a way to manipulate reality at its most fundamental level." Below them, thousands of workers swarmed over the massive hull of what would become humanity's first true warship, nearly a kilometer long. Its sleek design belied the devastating power being built into its core. "Will it work?" Elena asked simply. Dr. Linden shrugged. "In theory, yes. The reality distortion drive should be capable of faster-than-light travel. The phase cannons should be able to bypass conventional shielding. But we're cobbling together technology we barely understand with human ingenuity and desperation. It's like cavemen trying to build a nuclear reactor after finding a physics textbook." Elena placed a hand on the scientist's shoulder. "History is full of cavemen who did the impossible when their backs were against the wall. They named the ship Vengeance, Alina stood on its bridge 1 year after the fall of Earth, surrounded by a crew chosen from the best of what remained of humanity. The ship hummed with power drawn from dimensions humans had only theorized about before the Antari archives. "All systems online," reported Lieutenant Chen from the tactical station. "Phase cannons charge. Reality distortion drive ready for initiation. Launch sequence commencing," announced Major Rodriguez from operations. Hangar doors opening. Above them, the massive doors built into the Martian surface slid apart, revealing the star-filled void of space. Alina took a deep breath, thinking of the billions lost, the world burning behind them, and the uncertain mission ahead. "Take us up, Major. Slow and steady." The Vengeance rose from its birthplace, accelerating smoothly into orbit. As they cleared Mars, the sensor officer called out urgently, "Commander, 3 Vorax vessels detected approaching from the asteroid belt." Alina felt ice in her veins but kept her voice steady. They must have left sentries to monitor the system. "Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat." The bridge transformed into a hive of controlled activity as the crew prepared for humanity's first space battle. On the main view screen, the Vorax ships approached, each one a twisted mass of black metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, bristling with weapons that had turned Earth's mightiest cities to ash in seconds. "They're scanning us," Chen reported. "They're probably confused. The Vengeance doesn't match any human vessel designs they would have cataloged." "Good," Alina said. "Let's make sure confusion is the last thing they feel." "Charge phase cannons. Target the lead vessel." The Vengeance's weapon systems hummed as energy gathered from multiple dimensions, focused through crystalline matrices derived from Antari technology. On the view screen, the Vorax ships began to spread out, standard flanking maneuvers that would have been devastating against defenseless human vessels. "They're charging weapons," Chen called out. "Fire," Alina ordered. The phase cannon discharged, not with a beam of light or a missile's trail, but with a distortion that bent space itself between the Vengeance and its target. For a brief moment, reality between the ships seemed to fold, creating a direct connection that bypassed normal space. The lead Vorax ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, its matter converted to energy and dispersed across multiple dimensions. Silence fell across the bridge as the crew stared at the empty space where their enemy had been moments before. "By all that's holy," whispered Admiral Weston, who had insisted on being present for the maiden voyage. The remaining Vorax ships reacted immediately, their weapons firing in unison at the Vengeance. Energy beams that had vaporized human cities struck the ship's shields, another Antari technology that didn't so much absorb the attack as shift it into another dimension entirely. "Shields holding at 92%, reported Chen, sounding almost surprised. "Their weapons are powerful, but not as advanced as we expected." "Target the second vessel," Alina commanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "Fire when ready." Again, space distorted between the ships. Again, a Vorax vessel vanished from existence. The third ship immediately changed course, accelerating away from Mars at maximum speed. "They're running," Rodriguez said, disbelief evident in his voice. "Not today," Alina replied coldly. "Target their engines." The third phase cannon shot struck with precision, crippling the Vorax ship without destroying it completely. It drifted helplessly in space, its drive systems offline. "Prepare a boarding party," Alina ordered. "I want their navigation data, communications logs, everything. We need to know where their homeworld is." As the boarding team prepared, Alina gazed out at the disabled alien ship. The test was more successful than they could have hoped, but this was just the beginning. 3 patrol ships were nothing compared to the armada that had destroyed Earth. "We're coming for you," she whispered to the stars. "All of you." The Vorax ship yielded treasures beyond their expectations, not just navigational data pointing to the heart of Vorax territory, but also communications logs revealing the existence of a vast empire spanning hundreds of star systems, many populated by species conquered and enslaved just as they had attempted to do with humans. 2 days later, the Vengeance hovered at the edge of the solar system, preparing for its first reality distortion jump, a faster-than-light maneuver that would take them directly to the Vorax core worlds. Alina addressed the crew from the bridge, her message broadcast throughout the ship. "We all lost everything when they came to Earth. Friends, family, our entire world. What we're about to do has never been attempted by humans before. We're going to jump across thousands of light years, deep into enemy territory, with no backup and no way home except through victory." She paused, looking at the determined faces around her. "But we're not just fighting for revenge. From what we've learned, the Vorax have conquered dozens of civilizations, enslaved countless beings across the galaxy. Today, humanity makes its stand, not just for ourselves, but for every species that has suffered under their empire. Today, we show the galaxy that Earth may have fallen, but humanity's spirit never will." Elena nodded to Major Rodriguez. "Initiate reality distortion drive." The stars blurred around them as the Vengeance tore a hole in space-time itself, carrying the last hope of humanity toward a war that would determine the fate of not just one species, but an entire galaxy. The wrath of humanity. The Vengeance erupted into normal space amid a field of debris, the remnants of an ancient battlefield where massive ships had died centuries ago. Beyond it lay their destination, Vorax Prime, a massive ringed planet surrounded by orbital shipyards and defense platforms that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. "Stealth systems engaged," Lieutenant Chen reported as they drifted silently through the debris field. "They don't appear to have detected our arrival." Elena studied the tactical display, taking in the might of the Vorax homeworld's defenses. Even with the Vengeance's superior technology, a direct assault would be suicide. "Preliminary scans complete," announced Dr. Sharma from the science station. "The fourth moon appears to be an industrial complex. I'm detecting life signs that don't match Vorax biosignatures." "Slave labor," Elena said grimly. "What species?" "At least 3 distinct patterns. None match anything in our database." Elena made her decision. "Set course for the moon. Minimum power, maintain stealth protocols. Let's see who else has a reason to hate the Vorax." The industrial moon was a hellscape of massive factories and mining operations, all powered by the labor of conquered species. The Vengeance slipped into orbit undetected, and Elena led a small team to the surface using a cloaked shuttle. What they found changed the trajectory of their mission. The Karazi were insectoid beings with iridescent carapaces and 4 arms, once the peaceful rulers of a dozen worlds before the Vorax came. The Nith were silicon-based life forms who communicated through light patterns rippling across their translucent bodies. And the Drovani, massive, bear-like creatures whose technological prowess had nearly matched the Vorax before their betrayal and enslavement. "You came from Earth?" asked Surtak, a Karazi elder whose broken mandibles spoke of years of resistance and punishment. "We received transmissions from your world before it fell. Your people fought bravely." "Not bravely enough," Elena replied. "But we're not finished fighting." The meeting took place deep beneath the surface, in tunnels the slaves had secretly excavated over decades. Representatives from all 3 enslaved species listened as Elena explained the Vengeance's capabilities and their mission of retribution. "Your ship is powerful," acknowledged Gravnar, a scared Drovani whose missing eye had been replaced with a crude mechanical substitute. "But one vessel cannot stand against the Vorax Armada." "We don't intend to fight them all," Elena said. "We're going to cut off the head of the snake. We need intelligence about their command structure, their leadership." Light patterns flashed across the body of Lum, the Nith representative, which a Karazi translator interpreted. "The High Conclave. 7 Vorax elders who have ruled for centuries. They reside in the Spire, at the heart of the capital city." "Can you get us there?" Elena asked. The 3 alien leaders exchanged glances. "We can," said Surtak finally. but only if you promise something in return. Name it. When you strike at the conclave, take us with you, and afterward, help us free our people. All of them, across every world where the Vorax keeps slaves. Elena extended her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Sirtak's clawed appendage clasped it. Deal. The plan came together over the next 3 days. The enslaved aliens had been gathering intelligence and building a resistance network for generations. They had smugglers, saboteurs, even a few who worked within the spire itself. What they lacked was the power to act, until the vengeance arrived. When the time came, Elena left Admiral Weston in command of the ship with clear instructions. If they didn't return in 24 hours, he was to unleash the Vengeance's full firepower on the Vorax shipyards and then return to Mars with what they had learned. Elena led the infiltration team herself, accompanied by Lieutenant Chen, Dr. Sharma, and representatives from each of the enslaved species. They traveled aboard a Vorax supply ship, hidden in secret compartments built by generations of resistance fighters. The capital city of the Vorax was a sprawling metropolis of twisted black spires and angular structures that seemed to defy gravity. At its center stood the spire, a massive tower that reached into the clouds, from which the High Conclave ruled their empire with cruel efficiency. The Vorax evolved as apex predators on a dying world, explained Sirtak as their transport approached the city. They developed technology not for exploration or commerce, but for hunting. When they reached the stars, they simply continued hunting on a galactic scale. That explains their ships, Chen observed. They're basically weaponized predator psychology. Precisely, the Karazi nodded. They don't build, they don't trade. They simply take what they need. Other species are either prey or competition to be eliminated. The supply ship docked at a massive distribution center near the base of the spire. Under the guidance of their alien allies, Elena's team navigated through service corridors and maintenance shafts, avoiding Vorax patrols with a combination of stealth technology and insider knowledge. Hours later, they reached the upper levels of the spire, where the High Conclave conducted the business of their vast empire. The security here was formidable, but the Resistance had spent years preparing for this moment. Lum, the Nith representative, interfaced with the spire's systems through light patterns, creating a temporary blind spot in the security grid. We have 18 minutes before the systems reset, Sirtak warned as they slipped through the final checkpoint. The chamber of the High Conclave was vast and dimly lit, dominated by 7 elevated platforms arranged in a circle. Each platform held a Vorax elder, massive creatures nearly 3 meters tall, their scaled bodies augmented with cybernetic enhancements that gleamed in the low light. Intruders, hissed one of the elders, rising to its full height. How dare you defile the sacred chamber? Elena stepped forward, removing her stealth hood. I am Commander Elena Reyes of Earth. You destroyed my world. I've come to understand why before I destroy yours. A sound like grinding metal filled the chamber. Vorax laughter. Earth, said another elder, its voice a rasping growl. An insignificant world in an insignificant system. We harvest dozens like it every cycle. You're right about one thing, Elena replied coldly. Earth was insignificant to you, but you made a mistake when you left survivors. Survivors. A third elder leaned forward, cybernetic eyes focusing on Elena with new interest. Impossible. Our harvesting protocol is thorough. Not thorough enough. Dr. Sharma stepped forward, activating a holographic projector that displayed the Vengeance in orbit around the industrial moon. We escaped. We rebuilt. We learned. The elders shifted uneasily, communicating with each other through subsonic rumbles that human ears couldn't detect, but that Elena could feel in her bones. The vessel, one finally said. Its design elements. They're Anteri. Elena noted the fear in the Vorax's voice. You recognize it. Good. Then you know what we're capable of. The Anteri are extinct, growled the largest elder from the central platform. We hunted them to the last clutch. Not before they left us a parting gift, Elena replied. Knowledge. Technology. The means to end your empire. You lie. The Elder's augmented arm smashed down on its console. The Antari archives were destroyed. It was confirmed. And in that moment of blind rage, the Elder had revealed exactly what Elena needed to know. So that's why you targeted Earth, she said quietly. You weren't just harvesting resources. You were looking for an Antari archive. Dr. Sharma's eyes widened as the pieces fell into place. The Mars facility. The Antari must have hidden their technology on multiple worlds as insurance against extinction. And humanity had the misfortune of evolving on one of those worlds. Chen added, we were never the target. We were just in the way. The lead Elder rose to its full height, towering over the humans. It matters not. You are here, in the heart of our power, while your ship orbits alone. Even with Antari weapons, it cannot withstand our combined fleet. Elena smiled coldly. Who said it was alone? At that moment, alarms began blaring throughout the spire. On her wrist display, Elena watched as the Vengeance decloaked in high orbit, joined by a fleet of ships that had been hiding in the debris field. Vessels crewed by rebellious slaves and resistance fighters from a dozen conquered worlds, all coordinated through the Vengeance's superior communication systems. Now, Elena said to her alien allies, Surtak, Gravenar, and Lum activated devices they had carried into the chamber. Antari technology, miniaturized by human engineers. Reality distortion fields sprang up around each of the 7 elders, isolating them from each other and from any help that might come. Your choice is simple, Elena told the trapped Vorax leader. Surrender your empire and free all enslaved species, or watch as we reduce your homeworld to the same ash you made of Earth. You wouldn't, the elder hissed. Even with Antari weapons, the casualties would be in the billions. Exactly the same number you inflicted on Earth, Elena replied, her voice like ice. The difference is, I'm giving you a choice. For a long moment, the massive Vorax stared down at the human commander, ancient predator instincts warring with cold calculation. Finally, it spoke a single word in its native tongue, a command that caused all alarms to cease immediately. Wise decision, Elena said, nodding to Dr. Sharma, who began transmitting pre-prepared terms of surrender and liberation to every Vorax communication channel across the Empire. 3 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance, watching as transport ships carried former slaves back to homeworlds many had never seen. The transition was not without conflict. Centuries of Vorax domination couldn't be undone in days, but the combined fleet now enforcing the peace was growing stronger as more liberated worlds joined the alliance. The Karazi are requesting our help establishing a defensive perimeter around their home system, Lieutenant Chen reported, joining her at the viewport. They're concerned about Vorax loyalists who fled before the surrender. Elena nodded. Tell them we'll dispatch an engineering team to help them implement phase shield technology. The Drovani can handle security. They'd been itching for a chance to hunt Vorax for a change. And after that, do we go home? Home. The word hung between them, complex and bittersweet. Mars was a refuge, not a home. Earth was still there, but wounded beyond immediate recovery. Not yet, Elena said finally. The Antari archives on Mars mentioned other repositories across the galaxy. More technology, more knowledge. And if there are more species out there like the Vorax, then they need to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. Chen finished with a grim smile. Elena turned back to the stars, thinking of the billions lost, the world they could never return to, and the impossible road they had traveled to reach this point. Exactly, she said. Plot a course to the coordinates Dr. Sharma decoded from the Spire's database. It's time humanity took its place among the stars, not just as survivors, but as protectors. Beyond the viewport, the galaxy stretched out before them, vast, mysterious, and now forever changed by the wrath and the mercy of the species that had refused to accept extinction.